92.7 FM. My name is Beatrice.
And I am Alfred Ocansey.
The news is also live on Ocansey 107.1 FM and across the world at 3news.com. We're also streaming live on 3FM 92.7 on Facebook. Coming up in the next 1.5 hours, Electoral Commission extends deadline for the limited voter registration exercise by 2 days after earlier rejecting calls for same.
Also, this evening here on Hot Edition, Human Rights Court orders National Biosafety Authority to label all genetically modified products on the market to enable the public easily identify and make informed choices. We explore the implications of this landmark ruling.
Much later, government experts cities stability to improve into the medium term as it eyes more inflows from IMF and other sources to show up the value of the local currency.
Also, Finance Minister insists medium-term economic outlook is bright even as Ghanaians continue to grapple with the rising cost of living. We have more of that as well and the latest in the world of business and sports over the next 1 hour, 30 minutes here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, also on Kesme 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W93.5 in Y and beyond.
For now, though, Grace Hamwajiman is here with the summary of the news.
Yes, Beatrice, let's get straight into it and start from the AC because the Electoral Commission has moved the deadline for the limited voter registration, which was originally scheduled to end on Monday, May 27 forward. The exercise will now end on Wednesday, May 29. A note from the Commission said on Friday, May 23. The extension of the deadline, the EC said, is to make up for the challenges incurred during the first 2 days of the exercise. The Ghana Police Service has withdrawn its injunction application seeking to halt the Yvonne Nelson-led demonstration against erratic power supply, known locally as Dumso. The decision comes after the organizers of the protest submitted a revised plan to the police, changing the date and location of the vigil. Originally scheduled for May 25, 2024, the demonstration will now take place on June 8, 2024 at 2 p.m. at the University of Ghana. The change was confirmed in a new letter sent by the organizers to the Accra Regional Police Command, addressing the initial concerns raised by the officers. And Finance Minister Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam has observed that speculations on the Ghanaian markets are affecting the city. He urged that the speculation should be reduced. Speaking during his monthly press briefing in Accra today, he said, "There's so much speculation out there on the city, so we need people to know that these speculations do not help us as a country or our city." And before we go, the National Democratic Congress has dared the Attorney General Godfred Yeboah-Dame to publish in 24 hours the supposed footage where the minority leader, Dr. Kesela Tuforsen, was pleading with him to drop the charges against him. The minority leader is standing trial with 2 others over the purchase of some ambulances under the erstwhile John Mahama administration, who the government says caused financial loss to the state. That's it for the news summaries.
Grace Hamwajiman, thank you so much. Small news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Hot Edition now. The Electoral Commission has been talking and finally giving in to calls for the extension of the deadline for this limited voter registration exercise. That's what's coming through right now.
Yes, Alfred. And the EC has extended the ongoing voters registration exercise by 2 additional days. The exercise, initially set to conclude on May 27, will continue until Wednesday, May 29, 2024. Now, the Commission, in a statement, said that it is to make up for the network challenges experienced during the first 2 days of the exercise. Several persons and other stakeholders had called for the extension of the period due to the lost time. Running mate of the position, NDC, Professor Jane Nano Pokwajiman, believes that the extension was necessary. We'll be bringing you more of that sound and, of course, what the Electoral Commission has been telling us in this. But let me remind you that the Electoral Commission, as at its media engagement on Tuesday, May 22, and addressed by the Deputy EC Chair in charge of operations, Samuel Tete, said that the 21-day period allotted for the exercise was enough. We'll bring you more as well on that, but we also do know that data released by the EC indicates that as of the close of registration on the 13th day of the exercise on Sunday, 19th of May 2024, a total of 522,025 new voters had been registered, out of which 446,416 are first-time voters between the ages of 18 and 21. Now, out of the total figure, over 200,000, representing 47.21% of the registered voters, are males, and another 275,000 plus, representing 52.79% being female. The EC had targeted registering a total of 623,000 voters by the end of the exercise. Mr. Tete said a total of 813 persons living with disabilities had been registered across the country.
Here, I'm told some are not Ghanaians, so currently they are here at the District Review Committee to be heard. This young man says he's a Ghanaian, he has voted before, but he lost his ID card. He showed me a Ghanaian card and also national health insurance that suggests he's a Ghanaian. But I'm hearing that that does not necessarily mean that you are a Ghanaian. Let's put it, so you have been challenged, okay? You said you have a Ghana card, let's see. So this is a Ghana card, and then this is your health insurance. So what happened? What happened?
He said he challenged to me, say,
no, speak English, Go ahead.
He said he challenged to me, say, I'm from Ghana.
Yes.
So, like, I'm from Togo. But I don't know the Togo is the difference of Ghana. Aflao is the difference from Ghana. I don't know. So I just coming for here to take my card, voter's card.
Are you a Ghanaian?
Yes, sir.
You're a Ghanaian?
100%.
Who's your mother? Who's your father?
My father's name is Akozuke. Simon.
What did you school?
Afonyokopo.
You schooled in Ghana?
Yeah.
You've lived in Ghana all your life?
Yeah.
You did and
Everything.
which year did you do a Ghana card?
Oh, I do for my village.
Okay.
Yeah, the place I have to do.
But right now you've been challenged. They say you're not a Ghanaian.
Yeah, I don't know the way he say challenge to me, but the president challenged to me. I don't see him, so I don't have anything.
And you don't have anybody to speak for you. You don't have your family members coming to testify on your behalf.
I have plenty people.
They testify on behalf.
I have plenty
But you are
people.
yet to meet the review committee.
No, I don't.
You are yet to meet the review group. You are yet to meet them.
Yes.
Okay, let me talk to this lady too. You are a student, right? How old are you? Speak out. 19. Which year were you born?
2005.
And you are 19. So why have you been challenged?
I was trying to
You are not 18.
Yeah.
Have you proven beyond reasonable doubt that you are 18?
No, I've not proven it.
Do you have a birth cert?
My birth cert is with my father.
So what did you use in registering?
I used the health insurance.
You use the health insurance. That suggests that you are 19. Right? Speak out.
And that was rather my colleague Joseph Armstrong interacting with some first-time voters earlier. Now, still on the voters' registration exercise, the voter regional executives of the position NDC are calling for the immediate arrest of Richard Ahiagba for confessing and admitting voting in 2020 without having his name on the voters' register. Now, speaking to 3FM, the voter regional secretary James Gonu said that just like Hobson Adoy, Richard Ahiagba must also be arrested for engaging in electoral fraud.
2. The second confession was that Richard Ahiagba, an MPP stalwart, confessed that though he was not a registered voter in 2020 election, he voted. That is another confession, and that is criminal. Just as throwing off, dynamite, is as criminal as voting without being a registered voter. Now, Hobson has been arrested. We expect that Richard, he has been granted bail, yes. The police will have to investigate further. But you cannot leave the other person who has confessed, So, because we cannot live in a selective justice system. So if Hobson Adoy is guilty, Richard Ahiagba is equally guilty of electoral fraud. And I expect the Ghana Police Service to pick him up and investigate him because he personally confessed this. But coming to what they always do against voter. In 2020, we were here when they sponsored this group called Western Togoland Group.
And you heard the voter regional secretary of the NDC, James Gono, speaking to us earlier. Let's connect to Dr. Rashid Tanko Computer. He's Deputy Director of Elections and IT for the NDC. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you for joining us on Hot Edition.
Thank you, my dear. How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you for asking. We've just had the Electoral Commission confirming to us that indeed the ongoing exercise, the voter registration, the limited voter registration exercise has been extended by 2 days. The opposition NDC must be happy. Your running mate had called for that.
I'm not surprised at all. You remember the last time I had discussion with you people, I told you that this Electoral Commission, they don't learn from their mistakes. I told you when they did their press conference and announced that they were not going to extend the registration date, they are comfortable with what they are doing. I told you that it was ill time. They had not taken their time to take reports from their regional directors and the districts and to look at the figures as it's coming out from the ground. They hurriedly went, I don't know what they are doing over there. They sometimes don't analyze their own issues before coming out publicly. And then we told them that, look, you needed to take time and study the situation on the ground before you make such announcements. So we are not surprised because you lost first 2 days. The 7th and 8th, you couldn't do anything. A lot of the district could not register on the first day. Even Accra, I gave example, Kole Kuloti couldn't register one soul, the whole Accra. And so you can imagine what would have happened to the other districts in the countryside. And also to make such a statement would have taken recourse to all this. I knew they would come back to their senses. And we are happy they are back to their senses. Let's move on. It is not our intention to always attack them, but to make sure that we sanitize the process and we all have the best of register that we are looking for.
So you're happy about the extension of the exercise, you say. How is the party going to mobilize its members and supporters to ensure that you take advantage of these extra 2 days that has been given everyone?
My dear, it isn't that we are happy. We're just calling them to let them understand that their own inefficiencies led to the loss of the first 2 days. They have stated that they needed 21 days to do the exercise, but they lost the first 2 days. So it was understandable that when our running mate, Professor, made the call that they should make room for the 2 days so that to make up the 20, because you lost the first 2 days. And then so we are prepared at any point in time. We are prepared for the 2 days. Our agents are at post, our executives are working assiduously to make sure that we track the numbers as we continue to track the numbers. And then we'll make sure that we have the best of register that can stand the test of time.
All right, thank you very much. And that was Dr. Rashid Tanko Computer. He is Deputy Director of Elections and IT.
We also have Evans Nemakon, who is Director of Elections of the NPP, also on the underline joining us. And Dr. Rashid, should you just hold on with it for us? And Mr. Nemakon, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us here on Hot Edition.
My pleasure.
First off, the Electoral Commission has now given consideration to the calls for an extension of the deadline for this registration exercise. Is it one that for the NPP is welcoming, or you were expecting that they'll also stand by their earlier position that there's no way for an extension?
Well, thank you very much. I don't think at any point in time the New Patriotic Party has said that the EC cannot extend or there's no need. I think as a party, we maintain the position that having heard from the EC from day one, that this is a 21-day exercise. But we all appreciate that the initial stages of this exercise had a lot of challenges. And so it makes sense to say that for those times that there were challenges, you extend to accommodate those who couldn't make it. Today marks the 18th day of the 21 days. An extension for me is not out of place. But please, let's get it straight. We've been informed way back, IPAC meetings, that between 7th and 27th of this month, there will be limited voter registration exercise. We have said that if you project a certain number and it happens to be more than what you projected, you don't have any inhibition than to make sure that all those who are eligible get to be registered. The only challenges we are having in this exercise has been issue of the guarantor. And so if you check and you follow registration exercise in this country, where there has been challenges has to do mainly with those coming through with the guarantor system. It is the reason why the New Patriotic Party supported the EC to have come up with a new CI that will allow only for the NIA card as a means of identification. And then all these issues about you are Ghanaian, you are not 18 years and all that would have been a thing of the past. But our colleagues in NDC decided no, because without the guarantor system, there must be no registration. And we are all seeing the challenges that we are going through. That notwithstanding, if the election management body says that for the challenges we had in the initial stages, we've extended it by another 2 days, I think it's a welcoming idea. And all stakeholders must ensure that you comply with the rules and regulations. I think with that said, we should be fine.
I see. And I asked the question based on the premise that there had been that earlier position that it appeared that it was just the NDC that was continuously asking and calling for the Electoral Commission to consider an extension of this deadline because of the issues that happened in the first 2 days of this registration exercise. The party for the MPP, you were quiet about it.
My brother, we don't dictate to the EC, we don't dictate to anybody. We said this is an exercise that is for 21 days. I mean, some of the things the NDC are complaining about, as far back as 2014, the New Patriotic Party had made proposals to EC on how to make necessary reforms to ensure that our multi-party democracy will grow and deepen. And so when it comes to issues of elections, NDCs are students, we are professors. We know election issues very well. And so where you have a 21-day exercise and it has not come to an end and you are clamoring for more days, what are you asking for? So if the NDC said extend and we have said that let the 21 days end, we are not in competition with anybody. In any case, we have the constitutional right to submit agents in all the registration exercise, all the venues for registration, which we are doing. And so it's when the kids are asking for biscuits, we are looking at something serious than is happening now. So please, we know what is right to be done at any point in time. And we are sticking, our focus is on the ball. And we will not be distracted by the calls from the NDC that really do not add up.
I don't know what you meant by you. When it comes to elections, you are the professors and the NDC are your students. Maybe it's one that your other colleague would definitely take a different position on. But
they will be entitled to their views and opinions. I'm saying that some of the things they are clamoring for don't have basis. The 21 days, for instance, has not ended. Okay? We appreciate that when this whole exercise commenced, there were challenges. Challenges not coming from who? MPP. So if in the midst of the exercise, you are calling for what is legitimate, it's no news.
Now, Zango, I just wanted to take a listen to this. The voter regional executives of the NDC, they are calling for the immediate arrest of Richard Ahiagba, your party's communications director, for confessing and admitting to voting in 2020 without having his name on the voters register in that particular constituency where he voted. I want to just take a listen to him. And that's James Gonu, who's the regional secretary, the voter regional secretary of the NDC.
Hello, sir, my brother.
Yes.
They know what they must do. I don't think this is for discussion. They know what they must do.
If you say they know what they must do, how do you mean?
The NDC has any concern. They know what they must do. If they don't know, it's up to them. I don't think we have to waste our energies on these issues.
Well, if you're saying that they know what they must do, and I'm asking you, if you say they know what they must do, how do you mean?
It's not for me to speak for them.
But do you follow how the issues are played out with respect to Richard Ahiagba in this particular case, is it not?
My brother, there are more serious issues to be discussed than issues of Richard Ahiagba and his registration issues.
Mr. Nimako, so you're not worried that they are calling for the arrest of your communications director? That's basically what we want to find out.
Let them go ahead to the police.
You're not concerned?
I'm saying let them go ahead to the police. And if they have any information, let them furnish the police with it.
Well, Dr. Tango, you are going to the police? That's the MPP's call to you.
We think by now the police should have arrested Richard Ahiagba. By now, he shouldn't be walking on the street. He shouldn't be walking on the street. Our laws are very clear as to who is supposed to vote on election day. Very, very clear. So long as your name is not in the register, you are not supposed to vote. That is all. It's finito. It's simple and short. And so, to expect that we should go to the police to inform the police before he's arrested, brother, that's why he's comfortable saying that we should go to the police. They know. My good friend, Evans, let's do the right thing. Because if you are professors in elections and yet a professor will allow an illegality of that nature, your case is as good as mine. He should have been arrested by now, long since. And the officer who aided him to vote, the presiding officer and all the staff on that day, should be picked up. Because what are we telling the generations to come? That you can just walk to the voting center and say, because I did registration and my name is not captured in the register, so I should vote. Otherwise, those who were denied to vote during the district assembly election should have been allowed to vote because they were holding voter ID cards, but their names were taken out from the register by this current electoral commission. And they were disallowed to vote.
Dr. Computer.
Mr. Namako, yes, Dr. Computer,
we can hear you.
Hello, Dr. Computer. Yes, Dr.
Computer.
Hello. Yes, you are my brother-in-law.
I'll bring by your daughter.
You are so my brother-in-law. Please, check the CR 127 and be advised accordingly.
Oh, is there? The CR 127. If you go and look at the voting, under regulation voting, please. It's very clear who is supposed to vote.
Check and be advised accordingly.
It's there. I've checked it. And it's very clear who is supposed to vote. If your name is not in the register, did they hand over a ballot paper to you? So how did they verify you when your name is not in the register? Because your QR code needs to be verified before you are allowed to go through the other process. But your name is not in that register. Not to talk of your QR code being captured. So how do you allow you to vote?
Today marks the day 18th of this exercise. Hopefully, by next week, will come to an end. There has been an extension. We will monitor it until it ends. The new Patriotic Party, through the National Chairman, General Secretary, will make our position known on development so far. I think that said and done, the days ahead of the initial days have been smooth. Few challenges here and there, but we should be able to overcome it as a party. You already have close to 80 million registered voters before the commencement of this exercise. Hopefully, you will have additional numbers. The New Patriotic Party will go to them, visit each one of them on the electoral roll, ensure that our presidential candidate, His Excellency Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, will garner more votes than the former president, Mr. Mahama. The New Patriotic Party is counting on the Lord, the good people of Ghana, to constitute government again under Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia to ensure Ghana's development. Thank you very much.
We'll have to end it here with you both, gentlemen. Thank you very much, Evans Nimakon, Director of Elections for the governing MPP. You just heard him speaking there. Earlier, you heard Dr. Rashid Tanko Computer. He's Deputy Director of Elections at IT with the opposition NDC. Thank you for speaking to us both, gentlemen. Thank you.
Well, the government is saying that it expects the city to stabilize into the medium term as it looks forward to completing the debt restructuring to unlock some inflows from the International Monetary Fund and other external sources. The value of the city has depreciated considerably over the past 3 weeks, affecting goods and services and also increasing the cost of doing business. Briefing the media earlier today, the Finance Minister, Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam, blamed the pressure on the local currency on strengthening of the US dollar against major trading currencies. He also cites seasonal forex demand, payment to contractors and independent power producers, high CD liquidity and speculation as the contributing factors. He, however, maintains the depreciation has accumulated over the period by some 14.2% this year, which is far better than the previous year. Let's take a listen to exactly what he said.
And so I'm happy to say that we have now formally received the draft MOU, and we are going to work harder and quickly to round up the negotiation and sign the MOU. Ladies and gentlemen, we have in a very constructive manner also made significant and good progress on our Euro bond holders. It is important to note that we are operating under a complex set of constraints as part of the IMF debt sustainability thresholds. And this formed the context and basis of discussions for a mutual understanding of the financial parameters with our Eurobond holders. We've held several rounds of negotiations on proposals and counter-proposals on the Eurobond treatment. This led to a series of restrictive discussions for about 3 weeks, just before the IMF spring meetings, which ended successfully on the 15th of April 2024. At the end of these discussions, we ended with very narrow differences between our position and those of the bondholders. But let me assure you that considerable progress is being made towards a constructive solution that will be acceptable to all parties. It is for this reason that we are rather confident and more optimistic that we can continue to work together on solutions that would deliver an acceptable compromise for all stakeholders, both the government party and the bondholders. We are determined to reach an agreement with our bondholders and our commercial creditors as well on terms that are consistent with the IMF program parameters. And we will put all our efforts towards attaining that objective in the coming weeks.
Well, so that's the Finance Minister there, Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam. Now, let's have a conversation on this, because for the business men and women out there, the city depreciation, the impact and understanding is very different from what the Finance Minister is talking about right now. And indeed, the trickle-down effect that all of us are feeling right now. For the academia, they're also doing an assessment and the trend analysis, and it certainly doesn't look good. Professor Lord Mensah, and is an associate professor at the University of Ghana Business School, is joining us on the telephone. Professor Lord Mensah, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us here on Hot Edition.
Thank you, Alfred, and good evening to our listeners.
This is the verdict of the Finance Minister. The city, yes, depreciating, and it's, in his view, as a result of seasonal forex demand, payment to contractors and independent power producers, high city liquidity, and speculation. These are the contributory factors. And in his view, it had nothing to do with really the management of the economy. Is that the reality of the situation on the ground?
Yeah, so, Alfred, let me put it this way. Usually, speculations comes up when there is a consistent, uncertainty. So the fundamentals get failed, and then at the end of the day, the predictions and then the future of the economic numbers are left in the minds of people to determine which direction the economy is likely to go. Usually, if you have an economy where you have the economic numbers rise, and then also the managers of the economy, true to their words, right, whatever they say comes true, speculations have minimal role to play in detecting the directions of the economic numbers. Here is a case where we used to have a finance minister who would promise, good economic direction, who will give us all hopes like the current one is doing, as we saw in the press app. At the end of the day, you see people not really feeling whatever is being propagated. Talking about the city performance, I don't know since when did we started using, percentages in depreciation to determine how our currency fares. Because if you say the first quarter of last year, the city depreciated 20-point-something%, and this year it has depreciated 14%, and therefore relatively is a signal of stability, then there's a problem. Because in terms of levels, economic numbers levels, the city is seriously having impact in our homes. If you start the year and at the end of the day, you are not even certain as to what the level of the city will be. At the point where there is no, the full-scale demand is not there. If I say the full-scale demand, I mean demand of the dollar when individuals are on the market, government is on the market, servicing its external debt, and businesses are actively operating, importing here and there, borrowing cedis and changing it to, changing it to dollars. But now the cost of funds are so high. Businesses are not that active. Looking at the tariffs at the port, that is making importation difficult. So that has limited even the dollar demand as we speak now. Government has suspended its external debt payment. And as a result of that, the full demand of the dollar by the government is not what we are seeing now. And so if you are recording a depreciation percentage of 14, and then you relate it to last year and you turn up to say that it's a signal of stability, it's like you are forcing the people to accept the economic numbers. And these are things that breed uncertainty, and then speculations follows up. Because what you are telling the people is not what they are feeling. And as a result of that, they will rather determine how the future will go. And if you leave human beings, if you leave economic agents, right, to use their speculation to determine the direction of the currency, you lose control. And the thing is, how did we get here? We got here because we had problem of balance of payment deficit, which is a typical economic fundamental. But then all the solutions we prefer over the past, 3 years that we started having this problem, we've not given any concrete, economic productive, what we call solution. All the solutions that even in the current presser, the finance minister, indicated, they are all interventional solutions. If you are expecting money from the IMF, that will unlock money from the World Bank, that will unlock money from, other developmental, agents. If you are using goods for oil, policy, they are all interventions. What about the productive capacity of the economy to substitute imported goods That is what will control your city. That is what will control the fundamentals, and at the end of the day, it will give a certain direction of the human mind, not to be speculating. So it's like the minister has given up and he's thrown his hands in the air because speculation is dictating the direction of the currency.
But I mean, how much of a difference would the 360 million that is expected to come through, all things being equal, as the third tranche of the IMF loan?
It won't make much of a difference. I think there's a call coming through. It won't make much of a difference. But, you know, what is going to happen is that usually this IMF and all those supports, they are just to keep you afloat. So that while you keep yourself afloat, you roll out, permanent policies. And that is what is expected of this government. We're not seeing that yet. A piece of it came up in this presser where they talked about, SME champions, right, policy. And I'm wondering how they're going to handle that. Is it going to be usual dishing out of money because we are going into election years and all those? Then, trust me, we're not ready to control, the city.
I see. And you talk about this not going to make much of a difference. But really, I mean, so in your view, what has to be done? Because we're talking to businesses, Association of Ghana Industries, and others who are all complaining about the situation with the continuous depreciation of the city. So immediately, what has to be done? Professor Lord Mensah.
Yeah, of course, immediately, IMF money expectations, the World Bank ancillary, the support that we want to get. These are the immediate ones we are talking about. But like I said, those immediate ones, and then good for oil policy and all those, they are all interventional, support to hold up, the city. It just has to signal the market that things are about to be okay. But then whilst you having that free space, you may have to put in, measures to ensure that you reduce your imports. You do your import by looking at your import bill and then get the ones that you can produce in your economy within the next 1 year to 2 years. In that regard, you are positioning yourself for a permanent solution of the city problem. Thank you. I think I need to go.
Indeed, and I do appreciate your time on this. Professor Lord Mensah is an associate professor of finance at the University of Ghana Business School. Chona Makpelo is the executive director of the Association of Ghana Industries Greater Accra Regional Branch, and also an executive member of the AGI National Executives Board. And this is what he had to say about this impact of the continuous depreciation of the city.
And so we're stuck. That explains why most of the SMEs you see in Ghana are still small. In fact, most of them are closing down because they don't have access to capital they need to expand. Another related point to this issue is that the issue about accessibility is not even accessible. The rudiment required to access money is so difficult. You're asked to bring your car papers. In fact, some of the banks actually even ask you to park your car for the entire tenure of the loan. Wow. So the situations are really dire. Another interesting point has to do with the fact that the AFTA initiative or the African Union Continental Free Trade Agreement initiative would mean that we're expected to compete with other businesses across the continent of Africa.
But, and so, in the midst of all of this increases that you businesses are faced with, you cannot even pass on the cost to us, the consumers, because our purchasing power is also dwindling. There's no money if you do increase your goods and services. So you would have to find a way of absorbing this cost somehow. Is that not?
Exactly the point. If you look at the inflation rate is so high that you can only be sympathetic towards the consumer, the ordinary consumer. The income levels are the same, essentially, yet the inflation levels are high. Every day you go to the market, the price changes. And it's not the fault of the seller. But the reality is that the purchasing power of the consumer gets smaller as a result of increasing prices. So we have a situation where the income levels are the same, the real purchasing power of the consumer is decreased as a result, yet the industry is expected to sell more. So who are the people who are going to buy the product we're producing if the income levels are going down? Number two, if you ever try to increase the prices that we sell our products, you realize that it's so difficult. It's difficult because we are competing with folks that are importing finished products and are selling in the market. Somehow, because they don't have to be saddled with all of these taxes we have to deal with as local producers, somehow they are able to have their products cheaper compared to what is produced locally. And so if you're a local producer, there's only at certain level that you can increase your price. Otherwise, you price yourself out of the market.
Chana Makpelo is a national executive member of the Association of Ghana Industries, AGI. There.
Let's get some more on this. Yes, Executive Secretary of the Importers and Exporters Association, Samson Awingobe, joins us live on the line. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
You heard the finance minister there. He says the cedi depreciation, actually, the cedi is still very strong despite the depreciation. For you, who is into importing and exporting, how do you interpret or how do you take what he said?
Well, what I can say, I can pardon the finance minister. I strongly believe that he's living in paradise. He's not in this part of the world where today people are talking about the cedi is going for $1, is going for 16 cedis points. 16.2. It's not just 16 points. And for finance minister to have the opportunity to address the country and will not appeal to the Ghanaians, not only business community that is sophisticating. The sophistication is even also on all we the consumers in Ghana here as we speak. And so for him to say we're trying to make politics out of it, to say that look at year by year, last year by this time the rate at which the cedi depreciated, and today as we speak the rate at which the cedi depreciated, we should applaud him and not tell us how much Forest Bank of Ghana is putting into the commercial banks, not telling us what pragmatic measures they are putting in place to control the cedi, not telling us the prime rate that the Bank of Ghana is still keeping at the high, when we all know that the prime rate was increased as a result of to control the inflation in this country. The finance minister is not interested in telling us what is the way forward that they will do for business community, so the business community can also reduce some of the prices in order that will cushion Ghanaians. But the finance minister is saying that year on by year, he strongly believes that the cedi is strong. Strong at going $1 is going for 16 cedis, 16 points of your currency. You are not worried about it. I think that the finance minister is not in this country. He's living in paradise, not in Ghana.
Do I get the understanding based on what you're saying that you do not think that the finance ministry probably wants to do anything extra to deal with the challenge because already it doesn't really see the cedi weak right now as we speak?
I'm sure because I'm not sure he's doing business. If you begin a year with $1 million and today, or 1 million Ghana cedis, and today your 1 million Ghana cedis has become 30,000 or 40,000 Ghana cedis. If you could use 500,000 Ghana cedis to get, let's say, $100,000, and today that 500,000 Ghana can no longer get $500,000, then what is he talking about? That $100,000, what is he talking about? People cannot even talk about profit again. People are now crying that their capital is eroded. That is what is happening. Month by month, in daily basis, if you cannot adjust your prices, you are completely out of businesses. People can no longer order goods to come to this country. Very soon there is going to be a artificial shortage of goods, especially food commodity. Trust me, madam. Beatrice, that is what is going to happen to all of us in this country. Because I know multinationals who bring vessels loads of goods and saying that we are not going to import. We cannot place order. We can only what is in our stock. We are selling that one. And when we are done, the one that we supplied earlier that people owe us, we will go casing for those monies. Then we are going to hold our hands until the elections. And that they cannot place order because they can't afford it. They have made losses. Nobody seems to sympathize with the business community. And finance minister comes to tell us that the cedi is strong. Really? I think he lives in paradise.
And nonetheless, what do you expect the government, as it were, to do in the interim to help you?
Well, like some of you that I was in your studio yesterday. If not 3FM, I was on TV3 yesterday, the last Ghana Tonight yesterday. And I made it clearly. They have to tell us pragmatic measures that they are put in place. He is talking about foreign reserve for 4 months, but he's not telling how much he has directed Bank of Ghana to push currency, foreign currency to the commercial banks. He's not telling her how standing warning his office has issued to commercial bank through Bank of Ghana to commercial bank to make sure that if the foreign comes from Bank of Ghana to your bank, make sure that if today a bank interbank rate is, let's say, 14 series or even 13 point something, they should make sure the forex is there for genuine business people. Those who really are genuine business people will go to the commercial banks to get the forex to do their transactions. Yet he's not telling us how much they are going to put into the commercial bank. What are the measures that they are putting to make sure that there will be some little stability? But he's telling us he hasn't felt that the city has really gone down. He's saying that look at the stability of the city compared to last year by this time. He thinks that the city is strong. That's what he's saying. So absolutely, there's no any pragmatic strategy that the Minister of Finance is putting in place or the government is putting in place to make sure that they bring sanity to the city depreciation to us.
We'll have to end it here. Thank you very much, Samson Awingobit. He's Executive Secretary of the Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana. Thank you for speaking to us.
So Organized Labour has called for the restructuring of the Social Security and National Insurance Trust without delay. Labour alluded that SNIT is inefficient and resulting in huge administrative cost and government indebtedness to over 2 billion cedis. As of December 2023, Organized Labour cited the Bediako Presidential Commission's report of 2006. In that report, it proposed the setting up of the three-tier pension system. Chair of the forum, Isaac Bampoado, speaking on behalf of the entire Labour front, said this to our Labour correspondent earlier today.
These things were established and a government-wide paper was issued on the Presidential Commission on Pensions. There's a government-wide paper that recommended that SNIT must be restructured. And this white paper on the pensions was in the year 2006, after the Bediako Commission. These have not been complied with. The restructuring of SNIT has not seen the daylight. And let me quote what the report said. It said, the government shares the view of the Commission that the SNIT schemes has the inherent capacity to remain viable and sustainable, provided the following challenges are confronted and resolved: high administrative costs, high staff numbers, poor returns for investment, the relative low number of contributors given the size of the working population. We find a situation where these challenges have not been addressed. The 766 came up with unification. Rather, people are being taken out of the scheme. Some services have been taken out. And all these things are affecting pensions in this country. So we have to look at these things. We have to look at the governance structure of SNIT. We have to look at the government white paper on pensions and the recommendations on SNIT. If we don't do these things, I'm afraid there will be more cry on what is happening as in relation to sale of our assets.
What is the restructuring of SNIT? What do you mean? That's been proposed by the government white paper. What is it to restructure? So what do you want to say?
The conclusion on the Bediako committee was that SNIT was inefficient, and therefore these issues needed to be addressed. When you look at this sale that we are talking about.
As Isaac Bampoado, the member of the forum, Thomas Musa Tanko, was saddened about government indebtedness to SNIT. He says, as of December 2023, government was owing SNIT over 2 billion cedis.
You see, Senate has an image recovery program to do. I repeat, Senate has an image recovery program to do. Senate is in the media for all the wrong reasons for some time now. You see, and it is not in the interest of pension investment to go through such thing. And like the president said, Sikam PDD. You see, when you are doing investment with these things, or with this bad publicity around you always, it gives a very bad image. Number one, in 2021, the Auditor General told us that Senate, the controller or government was owing Senate 1.3 billion thereabout. This was minus the 3% penalty. When you slap the 3% penalty on it, it brings the figure approximately 4.4 billion.
As Thomas Musa Tanko is a member of the forum, also the General Secretary of the Ghana National Association of Teachers, NAT, there. Let's go for this quick break. We'll be back shortly with the business news with Juliana Menuafo and also the sports news right afterwards. Stay with us.
It's lights, camera, music. The stage is set, the stars are ready, and Ghana's biggest night is here. The 25th Telisol Ghana Music Awards Night happening live on Saturday, 1st June at the Grand Arena from 7 p.m. Be part of the extravaganza of rhythm, sheer talent, and high fashion, plus all the drama of who wins what. 170 nominees, 30 awards, plus 18 superstars, all performing live. You can't miss this. Book your tickets now. Starting for 500 Ghana cedis on *713*33*25# or call our hotline on 0501-288-520. The 25th Telisol Ghana Music Awards, powered by Chatterhouse, supported by Guinness, Captain Morgan, Close Up, British Council, TV3, 3FM, and sponsored by Telecel, connecting energies. Celebration. Our music is.
Hello, good evening. It's time now for the business segment on Hot Edition. This evening, government expects Ghana cedi to appreciate as US dollar moderates. My name is Menuafo. Stay with me as I bring you details of this and more. We'll go straight to our first story. Government is optimistic the depreciation of the cedi will soon turn around as the US dollar begins to moderate. The cedi has so far this year depreciated by over 14%, trading now at about 14 cedis 80 pesos to the dollar. Speaking at a press conference held by his outfit to update the country on the economy, Finance Minister Dr. Amin Adam indicated that the cedi will soon see some level of appreciation as the strength of the US dollar moderates.
The recent pressures on the cedi that I have referred to are largely as a result of the strengthening of the US dollar against major trading currencies across the world, including ours. And therefore, we expect that as the US currency also moderates in its strength, the effect will be felt on our currency. Another reason is seasonal forex demand, including elevated demand from corporate institutions. Then also, we have paid contractors. I want to say that the complaints of no money and no money and no money, we don't hear that anymore because we have paid and paid contractors.
Well, that was Finance Minister Dr. Amin Adam there. Meanwhile, Chief Economist at Absa Group, Jeff Gable, has projected the Ghanaian cedi will continue its downward trajectory for the rest of the year. According to the bank's forecast on Ghana's economic outlook, global economic challenges amidst geopolitical tensions as well as internal factors are the main factors of the projection. He disclosed this at a seminar organized by the bank to educate corporate investment clients on advanced risk management products.
Globally, we're seeing lots of uncertainty, so even big currency pairs like the euro against the dollar or British pound moving very much. Here we know in Ghana the environment is difficult. right? We're early on a reform program. We have the support of the IMF, but we still don't have all of the debt deals in place with the final dotting of I's and crossing of T's. So in that environment, we think, one, currency is more likely to continue to weaken, something like 15 against the dollar by the end of this year, maybe somewhat weaker to the dollar by the end of next year. And we expect that in those periods, the volatility that we've seen to date, there's going to be more of that. Frankly, some of these are outside of our control. Global interest rates, geopolitics, outside of our control. There are some that are within our control as well. So if we think about the kinds of reforms that are being pushed through, the IMF program itself doesn't exist to try to make currencies more volatile. It's there to get the country on a more sustainable basis. And a country that's on a more sustainable basis is likely to generate a currency that's both more stable and less volatile.
You heard the voice of Chief Economist at ABSA Group, Jeff Gable there. Now, Deputy Chief Executive of Finance at Volta River Authority, Dr. Ebenezer Tego, has admonished auditors to abreast themselves with changes in the work environment. Dr. Tego stresses auditors should position themselves to be able to extend their services to new trends like ESG, AI, cloud storage. He made the comments when the Institute of Internal Auditors Ghana paid a courtesy call on him as part of their Awareness Month.
Environmental, social, and governance issues, they are becoming very pivotal. And most businesses are beginning to report on ESG issues. And so what it is that as auditors, we'll be called upon to either validate or give assurance on that information that is put out there. And so it calls for us understanding what the ESG issues are, what the templates are, what the reports are, what the report seeks to do, so that when we are called upon very, very soon to do audits of the ESG, we'll be found wanting. The terrain is changing, and it's changing very fast. So there's a popular saying that you either shape up or shape out. You understand? If it moves, if you allow yourself to be overtaken by what the new trends are, what it means is that you will no longer be relevant.
Deputy Chief Executive of Finance at Volta River Authority, Dr. Ebenezer Tego there. Before we go, as woes of the city deepens, 3 Business explores its impact on Ghanaians living abroad who have to transfer money home for one reason or another.
They're always requesting more. They're always requesting more because they'll tell you, if I can use the local language, they'll tell you,
no one is interested to see the city devaluing as it is. We all have a greater impact on us, on those of us who are outside the country.
The burden has become overwhelming, because our families back at home depend on us so much, and now they put a lot of pressure on us to send more money, so that they can keep up.
The full report airs on News 360 on TV3 tonight at 7 p.m. Do make time to watch. Well, that will be all for the business segment on Hot Edition. Bill is in studio with the sports news. My name is Menuafo. Good evening.
Thank you, Menu. It's time for sports here on the 3FM Hot Edition. My name is Bill Lishen. We're going to start off from the local scene because this weekend the Super Clash will be happening. That will be the game between Asante Kotoko and Hearts of Oak. Of course, Asante Kotoko are currently 10th on the Ghana Premier League table, whilst Hearts of Oak are 12th with 38 points so far. The 3 Sports team spoke to Amanko Amreku, who is a former captain of Hearts of Oak, and he explains why Hearts of Oak are currently going through a very, very bad spell under Abubakar Ouattara this season.
The performance is not that good. The supporters are not happy with the performance, the results and everything. The team has not been consistent. But then for me, it starts from the individual players. You know what I'm saying? A player like Salifu, looking at where he's coming from Techiman, and then the expectation that surrounds him, and then what he's performing. I don't think it tallies. And so for me, I would say that fans are not happy, and therefore they could do better than what they are doing. For me, I think football is about players, and for that matter, intelligent players as well. Whenever a team loses and then they say coach, for me, I don't understand that kind of mindset.
That was Amankwa Mirakude, the former captain of Hearts of Oak. That game between Asante Kotoko and Hearts of Oak will be at the Barbera Sports Stadium in Kumasi on Sunday. But here are the other fixtures in the Ghana Premier League for this weekend. This is round 31 in the Ghana Premier League. Accra Lions will be facing Bechem United. Aduana will face Nations FC. Karela will be hosting in Swatreman. Of course, Kotoko will host Hearts of Oak. BBN Gold Stars will play against Dreams FC. Bofo Kwatano will play against Mediama. Real Tamale United versus Legon Cities. Hearts of Lions versus Samatex, and Great Olympics versus Brekum Chelsea. Samatex are on top of the Ghana Premier League table with 55 points. Nations FC are second with 48. Aduana are third with 46. And Mediama are fourth with 46. As I mentioned earlier, Asante Kotoko are 10th with 40 points. And Hearts of Oak are 12th with 38 points. Now let's move on abroad, because it's the FA Cup final, the match between Manchester United and Manchester City. This is the second time in a row that these two clubs will be playing in the FA Cup final, and this is what manager of Manchester United, Eric Ten Hag, had to say ahead of the game.
It's all about trophies, and we have a huge opportunity to win a trophy. And so last 10 years, not so many trophies in this club, but we have an opportunity to win 2 trophies in 2 years. Not every game I want to win, and that's it. And I just focusing on this game as I do for every game, and I know it's an important game because it's about a trophy.
That was Manchester United manager Eric Ten Hag, and of course Pep Guardiola also spoke to the media ahead of the game, and he placed some emphasis on the respect that Manchester United has.
We respect a lot United, always have been like that since I arrived, and for the history in the last decade we have been better, but in terms of history it's the best team in England, so just for that you have to of course respect them massively. What they feel, I don't know, because I'm not there. In the big clubs like United City, when you don't win, always you are in trouble. So it's not secrets. And I'm telling you this, when we have done what we have done, I would be in trouble if we don't win. So this is not a big issue. So I've done very, very good things and have a huge respect for his job in the past, now in United. And
that was Pep Guardiola, the head coach of Manchester City. That game between Manchester City and Manchester United will be on Saturday at 2 p.m. at the Wembley Stadium. That is the FA Cup final. Now, to some other stories, Barcelona have sacked head coach Xavi Hernandez after 3 years in the role. With former Bayern Munich and Germany boss Hansi Flick primed to replace him. The 44-year-old Spaniard will take charge of Barcelona's final game of the season against Sevilla on Sunday before leaving the club. The decision to sack Xavi comes a month after Barcelona persuaded him to stay on as manager after he initially planned to leave at the end of the campaign. Now, he won the 2022-23 La Liga trophy. He also won the 2022-23 Spanish Super Cup trophy with Barcelona and had a 62.7% win rate at the club before the announcement of him being sacked came by. And to our final story, the 2023 African Games gold medalist and member of the Black Bombers, Mohamed Amadou, has been defeated by Dominican Felix Jose Luis de los Santos in the final Olympic qualifier in Thailand earlier today. That's regards to boxing. Amadou, the featherweight for Team Ghana, lost via referee stoppage in the second round of the round of 64 bouts. The result means he's out of contention to represent Ghana at boxing in the 2024 Olympic Games. Now, apart from him, we have six other Ghanaian boxers who are still in contention to battle for a place for the 2024 Olympic Games. And those boxers are Mark Kojovia Hunjo of the superweight division. He'll be fighting on May 25. Theophilus Aluti is in the flyweight division. Will also fight on May 25th. And Joseph Kome, who also won gold at the 2023 African Games, is in the light welterweight division. He will fight on May 26th. Harry Malm is in light middleweight, May 26th. Jonathan Tete is at the heavyweight division. He will fight on May 27th. And Ornella Satud is in the women's middleweight, will be fighting on May 27th as well. These boxers would have to win at least 4 bouts to secure qualification to the 2024 Olympic Games. My name is Beatrice, and this is the end of the sports segment here on the 3FM Hot Edition. And of course, Beatrice is on standby with more.
And also here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. My name is Beatrice. Now, organizers of the Doom Summer Stop Vigil have announced a change in the event date. The vigil, originally scheduled for May 25, 2024, is now scheduled for June 8, starting at the front gate of the University of Ghana campus and concluding at the Tetekwashi Circle. Selom Dramado, one of the vigil's organizers, emphasized that the protest should not be politicized. Noble Crosby Annan was in court and has more in the following report.
The High Court in Accra rendered moot an application for an injunction seeking to prevent organizers of the Doomsoma Stop Vigil from converging at Revolution Square opposite the Jubilee House. This was after it emerged that the organizers had amended their gathering point and route for the vigil. In an early engagement with the police, the conveners disagreed on the starting point for their protest. The police later filed an injunction stating that the location was close to a security installation. In court on Friday, May 24, the case was withdrawn to accommodate the new amendment to the venue. One of the conveners of the vigil, Selom Dramado, told the media that they had decided to amend the venue for the vigil in consonance with the Public Order Act.
The Revolution Square was actually the bone of contention between us and the police. The police insistence on us changing the venue, that the venue should be changed. So we complied with that constitutional provision to write a letter to the police announcing a change of venue and change of date. It's a Ghana thing. So it shouldn't even be looked at in the narrow prism of partisanship. No.
He added that the organizers of the protests have yet to meet with the police service on the new date.
There will have to be a meeting again. So this thing will be like starting anew or starting afresh. So the police, on the back of the new letter submitted or a recent letter submitted to them, will have to arrange a meeting or invite us for a meeting to discuss the modalities for this very one that we announced to the public through the police, of which letter they have received.
The intermittent power outages over the last few months have been a source of worry for businesses and Ghanaians who have to spend extra on power. Although the situation has improved in some areas, other areas still experience intermittent power outages. On May 16, 2015, some Ghanaians stormed the street of Accra to participate in the Doomsoma Stop Vigil, the brainchild of movie actress Yvonne Nelson.
Noble Crosby Annan filed that report. As you may be aware, the Ghana Police Service has withdrawn its injunction application seeking to halt the Yvonne Nelson-led demonstration against the erratic power supply, locally known as Doomso. Let's connect to Selom Dramado, who is one of the conveners for this protest. He joins us live on the phone. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, Beatrice, and thanks for the opportunity. And good evening to your esteemed listeners.
You seem to be giving the impression that you find what happened in court today as a victory. Tell us what transpired and why you think so.
Okay. It was actually a brief process today at the court because the police had no opportunity to even make any arguments to the judge.
I'm sorry, sir. Your line has gone bad. If you could reposition yourself for us so we can hear you clearly.
Hello? Is it better now?
Excellent. Please go ahead.
Okay. I was saying that it was actually a brief process today in the Accra High Court specifically criminal court 5, where the judge, sat and then called the case, and the police rose and said to the judge that they had received a letter from us, which in that letter we actually stated that we had changed the venue to the University of the frontage of the University of Ghana campus, and the vigil will now terminate at the Tetequashi roundabout, where we will mount rostrum for speakers to have opportunity to vent their spleen, venom, and vitriol on the government in respect of the devastating effect of the doomsday. So the judge, and then they told the judge that they were withdrawing the application file. So the judge concurred, and the application was withdrawn.
Okay, now we seem to have an understanding of where you're starting this demonstration from, but not necessarily where it ends. Does your letter to the police indicate that?
No, the letter actually indicated that the converging points will be the frontage of the University of Ghana, and the vigil will terminate or will close the event at Tetequashi roundabout at 10 p.m. So the vigil commences at 2 p.m. at the frontage of the University of Ghana, where all the protesters will converge, and we all march to the Tetequashi roundabout, where we'll have the opportunity to vent our anger, spleen, and frustration on the government's inability to fix the crisis that is bedeviling the energy sector, which is resulting in doomsday.
Thank you very much. And that was Selim Dramani Dramado. He is one of the lead conveners for the Doomsday Must Stop protest. Thank you for speaking to us. And so here on Hot Edition, welcome to Campaign Trail. On Campaign Trail tonight, private legal practitioner Kwame Akofo says that it is not necessary to go through an elaborate process to remove the special prosecutor if anyone thinks that he has done anything wrong. The comment comes as many debate a petition sent to the president by former Attorney General and former Special Prosecutor Martin Amidu for the removal of the current Special Prosecutor Kisie Jabin. Martin Amidu in his petition raised issues of abuse of the judiciary, encroachment of authority, inducement of staff from sister law enforcement agencies, abuse of citizens' rights through arrest and detention, and procurement breaches. But in an interview with me earlier, Lawyer Akofo said that it is against the law to remove someone whose operations are not yet recognized by the 1992 Constitution.
I think that the Constitution is the superior law of the land. It's settled. The courts have always said so, the Constitution says so. And any attempt to use the Constitution should be within the premises of the Constitution. Now, if you look at the Constitution, the persons who can be impeached are clearly set out in the Constitution. The office of the Special Prosecutor is not one of those provisions, or is not one of those persons who can be impeached under the Constitution. I think that we're burdening ourselves unnecessarily by trying to remove a Special Prosecutor through an impeachment process when the Constitution does not anticipate such a laborious process.
But at the time the Constitution was being framed, we had not set up an office of a Special Prosecutor.
You're correct. And that is why the Constitution needs to be amended to enable the OSP or the Special Prosecutor to be covered. Until the Constitution is amended in accordance with Article 289 and 290, any attempt to do this indirect backdoor thing will be unconstitutional.
The Constitution has not been amended.
It's not been amended.
But there is an act of the Special Prosecutor, which you actually dismiss in your article.
I do.
And in section 15, which you quoted,
yes.
I'll just read it to you.
That's correct.
1, it says, the Special Prosecutor shall not be removed from the office except for A, stated misbehavior or incompetence, incapacity, that's B, to perform the functions of the office by reason of infirmity of body or mind. Talks about willful violation of the official oath or oath of secrecy, that's the C. D, conduct which, and it has 2 Roman numbers, I, brings or is likely to bring the office of the special prosecutor.
I'm familiar with the provisions.
Exactly.
I'm familiar with
reading
provisions.
it for the sake of those who are listening to us
and
will be watching us subsequently. So, although the Constitution has not been amended, this act that establishes the office of the special prosecutor makes it clear that the OSP can be removed.
It's a purported attempt. I'm not saying the OSP cannot be removed. I've never said that. I'm saying that the removal process for the OSP should not be as laborious as an impeachment process. The Constitution has set out the persons, for example, who can be vetted, persons who have to be approved by Parliament, and persons who have to be impeached when it comes to removal from office. Article 146 does not know the OSP, and therefore any conduct, if you're going to set up an act of Parliament, it should be an amendment to the Constitution and not a standalone act like Act 959. It's completely unconstitutional.
To elaborate, so how would you expect the OSP to be removed?
He has to be removed in a simple manner.
How?
He does not have to be removed on the basis of an impeachment process. If there is cause to remove you from a public office, your appointing authority may remove you.
So the argument is that the president who received this petition from Martin Amidu is himself a renowned lawyer.
Indeed, I trained under him.
The Chief Justice, Gertrude Tokonu herself, just a number of days ago, described him as, quote, and I'm just quoting her here, the most distinguished legal practitioner in Ghana. He didn't see this coming. I mean, he could have just nipped it in the bud.
I worked under the president for 18 years. I served in his office for 18 years. But the essence of training under great people is that people who train, great men who train people, expect their students to be able to point out loopholes and deficits because nobody is perfect. The president was acting on the basis of the Act of Parliament. I'm quite certain that when these things come to his attention, he will take advice and consider it. There's no provision in the Constitution which compels the president to put the gentleman under the provisions of the Constitution, save that there is an Act of Parliament now which obliges him to do so. I'm saying that that conduct is unnecessary. It is unconstitutional baggage.
That's fine, but I'm just saying that you don't think that the president understands the law enough to understand. I mean, he taught you. You're saying you worked with him for 18 years.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, so he should easily, looking on the surface of it, this doesn't even have to go through anything. But he went ahead and forwarded it to the CJ.
Because he had no other choice. These arguments, these interviews that we are having, is what will culminate in testing the system. If you send a petition to the president cannot sit in the cloistered quarters of his office and say this is unconstitutional. The step must be activated for it to be tested. That's why we're having this discussion.
You don't think that it feeds into the arguments that there have been attempts to remove the special prosecutor?
No, I'm not getting into that terrain.
Why?
Because I'm a lawyer, I cannot get into metaphysical discussions. I have to do things which are objectively evidential. The objective evidential that I have is that a petition has been received and forwarded pursuant to Section 15 of the Act. I'm saying that that provision under the Act is not covered by the Constitution.
You're claiming that, I mean, you're talking about evidence here because normally, obviously, evidence.
I have to speak to evidence.
The SP himself has spoken publicly about how he struggled. At a point, he even said, Mayor Ankonam. You don't think that that's evidence?
I will not take that into consideration for purposes of this legal discussion. I'm a lawyer. I will speak to the objectively evidential based on what the president did by forwarding the documentation or the petition to Madam Chief Justice. That is what I will speak to. As for sentiments expressed in public domain, none of them has anything to do with the unconstitutionality I speak about. Because as to whether or not the OSP said he wanted to be removed, that people were trying to remove him, has nothing to do with the constitutionality of the President's Act.
He also said that the Attorney General, Alfred, has done nothing wrong in the ongoing case against Kesalato Forcing, the minority leader. This this allegation against the Attorney General, and I mentioned it to you earlier, that a third accused in the ambulance case is now claiming that the AG had met him at odd hours, trying to convince him to build a case against Atoforsin. The AG's spokesperson yesterday actually dismissed that.
The Attorney General is my friend. I worked with the Attorney General in the same office until he became an Attorney General. Decent, hardworking person. Take him to where he is presently. I am not aware of the fine details of this matter, but I can tell you as a lawyer that the Attorney General is entitled to get some person, the co-accused, to testify against the other party. That is the law that I know, and that's the law that Attorney General knows. I'm not too certain whether the accused person is saying that the Attorney General asked him to frame somebody or to lie against somebody. Has he said so?
The AG had been there. I mean, they had met at odd hours.
Anything which is for purposes of a legitimate transaction has nothing odd about it, unless somebody is going to commit a murder.
So if you called me at 1 a.m., you wouldn't find that at odd hours?
It will depend on the reason. If you had sought to interview me at 1 a.m. and you come with the gentleman, it will be no problem to interview me at 1 a.m. if I was available. It's a question of fact. So if, for example, the Attorney General was traveling out of the jurisdiction and they decided to meet somebody at 12 before he boarded the plane, it's not an odd hour. An odd hour is a question of fact. But much more to it is the situation here. The Attorney General denies meeting the gentleman. From your brief, the gentleman says, I've met him. Let's assume that the Attorney General has met him. Where's the crime if you're trying to get some person to give evidence against a co-accused person? Take a look at the Michael Cohen and Trump case. Cohen's conduct is reprehensible. He committed a crime, but he's giving evidence against Donald Trump today. There's nothing wrong with it because prosecutors sometimes have to be able to get one accused person in order to be able to convict the bigger person. Unless you're making the allegation that the Attorney General is asking the gentleman to go into the court and to perjure himself, there is really no discussion here. It's become much more of a political topic than a legal discussion. From where I am, if the Attorney General tries to get somebody to give evidence against a co-accused person, that'll be perfectly legitimate.
How do you see this informing how the case moves forward?
How does the case move forward? The case is being prosecuted.
Does it have any influence at all on how you think the case would? Because we understand that the first accused, Atoforsin,
yes,
may be wanting to respond to some of these things that have come up. Should he decide to do that, how do you see the transformation of the case going forward?
If Atoforsin decides to contest this, he must be contesting it on the record as it is. For example, if the accused person had made comments which went to the Attorney General's ethics, okay, for example, that the gentleman should perjure himself, but no such allegations have been made. None have been made. So if what the gentleman said is perfectly legitimate, substantively legitimate, it is proper, there can be no complaint. There can be wrangling, there can be irritation, but there can be no legitimate complaint for the proceedings to be stayed. The case will go on. Fortunately, it's not a jury trial. It's a judge who should be able to rise above the sentiments and emotions and apply the law. If it had been a jury trial, then you have these situations. But it's not a jury trial. It's before a judge. In other circumstances, I do not find it as a matter of wrongdoing under the law. No. It may come as a surprise. Accused persons are approached from time to time to give evidence against co-accused persons. But it is being made to look as if the Attorney General has misconducted himself. I have not seen the evidence.
And that was private legal practitioner Laura Kwame Akufo there, bringing an end to campaign trail on Hot Edition. And that's how we end Hot Edition here on 3FM, our top stories. Electoral Commission extends deadline for the limited voter registration exercise by 2 days after earlier rejecting calls for same. Also, Human Rights Court orders National Biosafety Authority to label all genetically modified products on the market to enable the public easily identify and make informed choices. We brought you that story about the Doomsaw Vigil. And government expects cedi's stability to improve into the medium term as it eyes more inflows from IMF and other sources to shore up the value of the local currency. My name is Beatrice. Thank you very much for joining us on Hot Edition today. I did this with Alfred Ocansey. Log on to 3news.com for more news. Have a good evening.